Vayikra. Okay.
Okay, that's it.
Okay,
Just
now we
let's
can go.
save it. Yeah.
I knew that something is missing. Now I can go.
Good. Yeah. So I wanted to have it so I can upload it. So,
Thank you.
go
Thank
ahead.
you for inviting me. My name is iLan Azoulai, and I'm a sound therapist, a spiritual guide, and I help people come out of emotional blockages and manifest what they want to manifest and recognize the power that is in each one of us. Each one of us is a power. Each one of us is a beacon of light. We're in the potential, right? We came here, God brought us here as a potential. Just like you can't just, bread doesn't grow on trees. You have to make the bread. Take the flour, water. You can't just drink the barley. You have to make beer, process it. So we are here also. We've been placed here. Each one of us has gifts, have a box of crayons, if you will, and we all paint our drawing, or draw our painting, whatever you want to say. So this portion has a wonderful lesson about our power as individuals, as human beings, as beings of light. So the portion starts, Im bechukotai telechu, ואת מצוותיי, right? And עשיתם אותם. So as the rabbi was talking about, if you will follow this is what will happen. And if you not, this is what will happen. And what I like to do is to look at things and look at how the portion, because every week's portion reflects and guides us every week. That is why it is eternal, because it is living. It doesn't matter how many times you go over and you go over, you find new things and new things and new things. Right? And so I want to suggest to add something as far as Hebrew. Im bechukotai telechu. Im is actually also a form of asking. Will you? Im to'il betuvcha. When somebody looks at somebody and says, Ha'im to'il betuvcha la'asot et ze v'ze. Will you do this and this and this? So what is happening here actually? God is asking, will you do this? Why is God asking, will you do this? Usually, vaydaber, taseh, do, pam, 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 as is in the scriptures. So what is God asking us? He is asking for a relationship. There is a relationship, because when we choose, and this is what is being asked from us, to choose. Why to choose? Because everything is a frequency. Now, all right. Everything is energy. Everything around us is what we invite to our lives. So sound is energy. This is how I approach things, through sound. And sound, when was sound talked about? Well, sound was talked about, let's go to Mount Sinai when we received the Torah. Hem sham'u et hakolot.
Voices.
Exactly. They heard the light, they heard the voices. When God spoke, you could see energy. Now, this is not in comparison to somebody who was in a cave, or people that individuals said that they spoke to God. We had millions of people, Mount Sinai, that heard everything. So this is what has been downloaded to us, if you will. And so, they say that there is this story that Moses actually was the first person to bring the tablets through the Wi-Fi, right? He brought the tablets. But so we're looking for a relationship. We're seeing here a relationship through God, because there is a will to choose. Everything that we do has a frequency. Everything is energy. Sound is energy. Sound is vibration. Emotions are vibration. Emotions have frequencies. So when we look at what we do every day, I like to say everything physical, everything here in this realm has a spiritual reason and cause. Everything that we do, our meeting here today, coming here today, everything that happens has a spiritual reason and cause. And when we look from these glasses of everything has a spiritual reason and cause, we can understand why something is happening. I want to send blessings and condolences to the families of the children and the teachers that were massacred. You know, this is a hard time, and it is, you know, you cannot go around and say, well, this is how it's supposed. You cannot tell this to family. You know, this is why in Judaism, when in mourning or you eat adashim. How do you say adashim?
Lentils.
Lentils, to symbolize the circle of life, to symbolize without saying. Tell me this is the circle of life without saying it is the circle of life, because we're humans. We're in this condition. So, if everything has an energy, everything is in our power to create it. How is it being created? So let's look at this choice. Im bechukotai telechu. If you look at these things, if you choose, will you, then there is an effect, right? So when we choose, what is happening? I'm coming from a place of a will. I want to do that. God wants us to look at ourselves. Now, I'm not talking about all the laws and everything and the value and, everything has its time. And I don't want to, I will maybe talk about this a little bit about the value. You know, somebody said here about value of women and men. I understand the explanation about work value, and there is a deeper or a different perception on that. But if we look at this, if you choose, what is happening? I choose. I want to do that. I want to get up and do that. Imagine yourself. You're sitting in a bus stop, and you walked 3 miles and you don't have power anymore. You're just sitting and you're telling your partner, your wife, you're walking, you know what? I don't have power anymore. I can't move. I can't move. But suddenly somebody, God forbid this doesn't happen, somebody says, Mechabel, terrorist. Suddenly, you sprint up and you get up and you move and you run. And like all these 3 miles that you ran mean nothing. You are now like a 20-year-old guy that gets up and run, right? So we're changing our frequency, we're changing our energy based on what we choose. Doesn't matter the circumstances, we choose to do something, so there is a change of frequency. Abracadabra, I have a program, a radio program, that is called Abracadabra, Create What You Speak. Abracadabra comes from Aramaic, for those of you who don't know, and it says literally, Evra kedabra, I create as I speak. Let's look at that even more. In 10 utterances, the world was created. God created the world in 10 utterances. 10 words that are like in chemistry, take the words, create certain things, put them together in a certain way, and something is being created. Now, it is not as simple, I make it very simple, but you know, the full knowledge, the full understanding of the words and what goes with the words that I will mention is very deep and very, very ancient. And so this relationship that is being created by the choice, which leads to our surrender to what is. Okay, I'm surrendering to this. I want to do this. And then the energy is changing. My energy shifts. This portion is a wonderful lesson about how a person can actually change their disposition. Whether it is they are in turmoil, grief, all kind of relationship issues, understanding, communication. This portion is talking exactly about that, because this is the relationship between me, us, and the choices that we make. And how do we make the choices? What place within ourselves do we inhabit when we make the choice? Now, if I'm making the choice from a place of anger, not that I'm angry, I'm experiencing anger, right? So the choices will come from that place of emotion which is fickle, right? But if I'm coming from a place of joy, and at the end I want to give an exercise about a Kabbalistic meditation that induces joy, right? When I come from a place of joy, which is the natural state of our humanity, then the world is a wonderful place. What is the natural, somebody asks, what is the natural condition of a human being? Is it to be sad or to be happy? And the answer to that, we can look at babies or kids, right? Kids, by default, are happy unless somebody took something from them, somebody did something to them, they got slapped, something happened. But by default, they don't have any pre-existing conditions, if you will, right? They come, I want to play. I'm coming to play. I'm coming to be here. There is a song of Leonard Cohen, Anthem, and in there he has a line. It says, there is a crack in everything. That's where the light comes in. Right? There is a crack in everything. That's when the light comes in. Right? When our heart is, when we are going through pain, actually, pain is a place of where we can actually grow. It's just going to the gym. One would say, well, I don't want to go to the gym because it's hard, it's difficult, I sweat, my blood pressure goes up, But actually the resistance is what's creating that jolt, that move. So when there is a crack, the light comes in. But when we open a door, the light comes in, but also other things than light can come in, right? My dad was chief of police of Tel Aviv, and he taught me, he said, all the time, close the door, lock your door, because if you leave the door open, it calls a thief. That is, if there is a hole in the fence, it calls somebody, right? So who or what controls who comes in through the gate, who comes in through the crack? Shoftim v'shotrim titen b'sha'arecha, Deuteronomy, I think, right? Guards and police officers and judges you'll place at all of your gates, in metaphor and in relation today in our gates, in our ears gates, in our nose gates, in our eyes gates, mouth gates, what we say, what we speak, how we speak, what do we say, how do we talk to ourselves? It's not just to others. So when I talk about relationship, it's not only a relationship between me and another person, or between you and another person, it's a relationship to ourselves. How do we choose? How do we talk? How do we talk to ourselves? What do we create within ourselves? What do we create within ourselves that makes a change? So we're talking about nedarim, neder, right? It's not a vow. There is really no word in English for neder.
Oath.
Well, yeah, oath is shvuah. Yeah, there is no really, because shvuah is using the name. Yeah, so it's actually the action of committing to not do something versus you did something, or you do something versus you didn't do something. Now I'm committing. So who are you committing to? That's why in Hebrew many times you will hear, I remember also my parents would say, bli neder, no neders. I don't want to neder. Yeah. Exactly. I find it sometimes people use it as a scapegoat. You kind of like all the time to say, bli neder, just don't hold me to the word. Things can change, and things do change, right? So we're talking about nedarim. So does nedarim, neder has a frequency? If we're talking about frequencies, about sound, everything has a frequency. So when I make a choice, when I am making a commitment to myself, or saying something, what is actually happening here? Is the word is the word. So I can say whatever I want to say. Okay, I'm sorry, never mind, I'm sorry. Well, is it believable? Many times when somebody says, I'm sorry, but they're kind of not looking at you, and they're kind of having a funny body language, it doesn't really hold. The same thing when I want to manifest something, when I'm asking for something. So what is behind the word? The intention. Look at it as the word is the body, and the intention is the soul. So our intention is actually creating, giving power to the words. It's like a car and a driver. The car is the body, the driver is the soul. Without a car, you can pimp your car as much as you want. No driver, no going anywhere, right? So it's the same thing. Let's look at the power of the words. Let's look Avraham and Sarah, right? Abraham and Sarah. So if you change from Sarai to Sarah, add the letter Hey, then you'll be able to bear children. So the Hebrew letters are very powerful, very powerful. I call Hebrew as a language of essence. Not that other languages are not of essence to what they are, but for example, we were talking about animals earlier, behema. In Hebrew, every animal is called based on its quality. For example, kelev, kulo lev, is all heart. If you want to learn about decency, go to the cat, chatul. Why? Because it comes from the word lechatel, to diaper, kind of, to clean up, right? Behema is ba-ma, meaning what's in her, aside from looking down and eating. So what does differentiates us between us and the animal kingdom? The dibur, the speech, the word, the creation, the power to create. Betzalmo, God created us in God's image, or in God's also shadow, because Tzalmo comes from the word shadow, tzel. Right? So it's interesting how we can look at these things. So the words create. Let's look at the word vav. The word vav is anything that we want to connect with is ve. Ve. Anything, so everything has a meaning. The letter ayin. The letter ayin about the word for the eye. Now, so it's not that there was an eye and we gave it a name. There is a name because of the eye. The eye. So the letter ayin. The letter pei, mouth, pe. You have a question?
Yeah. Going back a little bit, when you talked about God's image and shadow, that statement, can you explain that a little bit?
So Tzalmo, when the word Tselem, right? The word Tselem is
Image.
the English word for image. But Tzel, in Hebrew, Tzel is shadow. Is shadow.
That kind of turns a lot of stuff on its head. Because if you were the word image can also mean shadow, actually.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean picture of. It can be even shadow. So our understanding of that context says God's image, in other words, we reflect God,
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
Versus us being, there's a nuance there of being a shadow, not necessarily a reflection, but a shadow.
I'm not talking about, when I say shadow, it's also, shadow is also a reflection. Is a reflection of the, let me give you an example. Do you know these, as a kids, you know the apples on a stick that you dip them in, right? And now the chocolate or the hard candy is in the shape of the apple, all right? The same thing is the soul. Our soul has been dipped, right? And this is the shape of our soul with the eyes, right? It's like we've been dipped. So it's the outline. Let's call it the outline, like an outline. What is being filled in that outline? How we are. If we look at each one of us, we're all a spark of light. We're all kavui, as it's talked about in, we went through so many compressions to get to be in this place. When God said to Moses, don't look into my face, just look at my back. If you look at me, you'll die. It's not a matter of punishment. It's a matter of the human capacity. The human body doesn't have the capacity, the energetic capacity to hold that. Okay? So it is the shadow, the image is really a tool, are really tools for us to see how we are and how we conduct ourselves here, especially between one another. Because, right, in Yom Kippur, there is the forgiveness, the atonement from the person to the place, meaning a person to God. But there is no atonement if you have something with somebody else. It doesn't mechaper ben adam lechavero. Yom Kippur doesn't atone for things that you have unresolved between you and a person. You have to ask for that forgiveness, right? But it's the same thing. So how are we maneuvering here? What is the purpose that we're here, right? So we are given all these tools to be able to excel, to be able to be the best that we can be with all our gifts. Somebody can speak, somebody can play music, somebody can sing, somebody is doing technical work. Everybody has their own, and we shift all the time, and we change all the time, because everything that we do today serves us to what we do tomorrow. Everything we do next time will serve us for our next journey, for our next stop, to be in a different place. So the shadow, sometimes we hear shadow work, and I'm not referring to that. I'm referring to it is also a shadow. It is also an outline. The Rabbi Yehuda ben Betzalel was a rabbi, and he says, Rabba bara gavra. He was very keen in creating, like golem, from words, but with no soul. So it would create only the nefesh that would hold the body. Right? That is also referred to as a shadow. There are many places that you can see how shadow and tselem work together. So it is really, how are we existing? How do we experience? How are we in all this? Okay, so the words, as I said, the words are the levush, the shell of how we can create and how we can manifest. In Sefer Etz Chaim, the Arizal is talking about the Tanta. That the words actually, the words are not enough. You need to have Tanta, Tet. Oh, I didn't have that. Okay. Which is Te'amim. When we read the Torah, we have the Te'amim, how we sing it. Nikud is how we punctuate it. That's why if you look at the Torah, it's not punctuated, because every word can mean who, right? Tagim, there's a little tag katan. In different Sephardic or Ashkenazi, we sing it differently, where you stop, where you continue. And then the last one is otiyot. The last one are the letters. So it's like the 4 levels, where we're talking about create what you speak. Yes, I speak, but what fuels what I speak? My intention. If I'm not connected and I have something going and I'm not connected, somebody can feel that. It comes across. If I'm asking something, or I'm asking for forgiveness for something and I don't really mean that, that is also being noticed. So the tanta, the music behind the words, the intention, we have the intention, and then we have the music. So actually the music is the Gaon, how say Gaon? Genius. The genius from Vilna. Yeah. Gaon mi Vilna said the music is the soul of the word. And to understand Torah, you need to understand music. It's fascinating. You need to understand music. Because the music and the words are it is what it is. So the question was that nobody really has an answer. Did God sing the utterances? It's interesting. It's interesting. So how do I speak? So I want to show maybe if you can show the first slide that I want to. Yes, this one. No, not this one. Yes. Can you just click on the bottom so it's a presentation view, please? To the right, there you go. Wunderbar, wonderful. So what I have here is from an experiment of a Japanese professor called Masuro Imoto. He did a water experiment to show that water has, first of all, has memory, but more than that, that our words actually create change in the physical. Now, we don't see our words. You say, well, I say something, I said something. Well, you don't see Wi-Fi and you get everything. You don't see a Röntgen, infrared, and things are happening, and a missile can take down just by, and there is nothing, you don't see. So this experiment was done, and what he did, he took two groups of people, with each group of in a room. Oh, it's either or. I got you. Okay. So he took two groups of people in different rooms, and each group had a bowl of water. The first group spoke only words of love to the water. I love you. You are wonderful. You're great. I'm so happy to be here. This is played classical music, consonant music, nicely harmonious music. And the second group, in the other room, spoke only words of negativity. I won't say those, but they were just think about the most negative words that were said to this water, bowl of water, and playing hard metal music. And then they froze them. And this is what happened. The words of positivity created beautiful geometrical shapes, marvelous geometrical shapes. The other group created just a brown splat. Don't have it here, but it just created a brown splat. So these, when I say I love you, look at the geometrical shapes, wisdom, truth. These are the different kind of shapes that were created with each kind of words, with each group of words. So I have here only the positive one, but the brown splat are just brown splat. So here is a question. If we are more than 80% water, and when we talk to ourselves, the way that we talk to ourselves, each person has their own way of relating to self. If I didn't do something, oh, you didn't do something. What do we create in us? What do we create in our body? We create harmonious shapes, we create joy, we create positivity. And if we're talking negative to us, then we are creating negative feelings, negative emotions. We're going into, and we are inviting this. So like attracts like. I'm positive, I invite and I surround myself with people that are positive, then the tree grows high and tall. If I surround myself with people and negativity and looking at every outcome with the possible negative first, then I'm creating myself a situation where I really don't want to be there, but I'm there. And so what can I do? Life happens. Well, life is happening. So this is, you can just leave the slide up there for a second. So when we are looking at our gates, when we talked earlier, I talked earlier about our gates, our ears, our nose, our eyes, what do we look at? What do we hear? What do we say? What do we speak? By the way, the eyes are not only receiving, but they're also emitting energy. What do we say when we're saying Ain Hara, the evil eye? Right? I remember my parents and my grandmother, the whole time used to do all these... well, all kind of things. We have bechor, we have all kind of resins that we do, right? What is the evil eye? The evil eye is an energy, and it usually comes in the form of jealousy, because the jealousy emits energy. Everything is energy. right? Everything is energy. Our coming together here is creating a field of energy, is our relational field. It is not only about you or you or you or you. It is what each one of us brings to the room, to the table, and what we create together, right? So this is the relational energy between us. This is what is being created. So, שופטים ושוטרים תיתנו בשעריך, right? To guard, to worry, to pay attention to how we speak, what we say, how we say, who we say to. So, sound, if you can go please to the next slide. This is what sound, when working with sound treatment. Now, up until now I talked about the effects and how sound is, and frequency can actually shift and change our existence, our experience every day. But let's bring it down to the physical. When I go to a sound treatment, I work with Tibetan bowls, I work with another facet of working with sound is bioacoustics, and I will talk about that. But I work with Tibetan bowls. Tibetan bowls are metal bowls. They're made out of 7 metals, and each bowl has a frequency. Well, actually, each bowl has several frequencies. Our voice also, by the way, is not only one tone. It's a combination of many frequencies that come together, like do, re, mi, fa, do, da, ti, do. Take all these, for example, or some of these, and combine them. Now, these are not the only sound, the solfeggio, the musical scales. There are many, 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 many frequencies. But when we're working with sound, I target what is missing and what needs to be replenished. For example, this bowl, for example, is 285 hertz. 285 hertz is specifically targeted for physical cuts. So what? Yeah, physical cuts. Sound is the ultimate medicine for our body and our soul, because sound works also on our emotional, on our spiritual level, and on our physical, every cell. So, .285 hertz is for physical cuts. So if I have physical cuts, we'll apply that with certain techniques, certain strokes, certain strokes. That's the right one. So this is what is for 285 hertz for cuts, right? So every bowl has its own function, and they work together, and they all work together. This bowl, for example, is a frequency of our heart. Yeah, so this frequency is frequency of our heart. This brings it to relaxation. And here are, on the screen, only some of the benefits. Sleeping, anxiety treatment. I worked with a stage 4 cancer patient that unfortunately she passed, because I mean, the reason was that was her time. I came and she was, every 2 hours she had to take pain medication because she had a few days maybe. So her family just wanted to do something to give her some relief. And she would take medicine every 2 hours, and you know, you have like a bunch of medications that you have to take. And after an hour treatment, she didn't take medications for 24 hours or a little bit longer, until the next noon. And that was for her, you know, after so many months of being on medication and pain all the time. So relaxation, aligning our chakras. Our chakras are energy systems. The main ones are 7. We have energy systems. We have our root, we have our sacral, we have our powerhouse, we have our heart, we have our throat, we have a third eye, and we have a crown. So each one of them reflects, each one of them targets and reflects functions in ourselves, in our body and in our soul. And so when I work with Tibetan bowls, is to align and to rejuvenate. Bioacoustics, for example, is taking voice samples, and through the voice samples we can identify what is missing, what is going on. For example, traumas. We all come here with traumas. We all have traumas. Since birth. I mean, the birthing process is traumatic by itself. But we are here. This is affected in our voice. Every traumatic experience that we experience that is taking away from us is reflected in our voice, because our voice is a holographic representation of everything that we are. Everything. So with bioacoustics, taking voice samples, analyzing the voice, finding what is missing, what is missing in the scale of your voice print, applying the needed frequencies, and also what enzymes and minerals the body needs to continue, to bring to an alignment, to bring to equilibrium, right? So our voice, back to our voice. When I say abracadabra, maybe now you look at it in a different way than, oops, there is a bunny out of the hat. So this is tying it back to the parasha, tying it back here. Let's look at our choice again. Our choices are created, and the quality of our choices is based on where we are within us. So also when God is asking us, if you will, I want also to come towards you, if you will. So God is talking to us. If you will, you look at the relationship between each one of us, between family members, your wife, spouse. How are we relating to one another? How am I creating my reality? What am I creating in my reality? So I want to, if you can go to the next slide, please. Okay. So I want to give you here just an illustration of how also how we can look at ourselves in a sense of directions, north, south, east, west, right? Next slide, please. So the north is our mind, our heart, south, body, and spirit. Next slide, please. How sound works. Emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually. And next slide, please. Now, if we give me also the next slide, please. Thank you. If we divide this in the Eastern philosophy, the yin yang, right? So we can see, and then I put two triangles on the left and on the right. So the left is the masculine. We're talking also about we are here, right? We're talking about masculine and feminine. Left is a masculine, mind, spirit, imagination. And the right one is the feminine, the receiving, but also the sending back. So what the upside down triangle is the masculine, the influencer, and the feminine is the receiver and the influencer, so the influencer can re-influence again. You know, we're talking about earlier the value, somebody said the value of a woman, and I don't know who it was because I was sitting back. But it's interesting, you know, the feminine, the woman has actually less things to do than a man in Judaism. Why? The woman is more evolved spiritually. Girls get bat mitzvah at 12, right? You know, Rabbi, you said you're talking about the value of money, of who can work, and you know, and we have these fights, arguments, in this period of time, with couples that said, "Oh, you don't go to work, so you don't." Yeah, but who cooks for you? Who brings you life? Oh, you know, all the things that without these, what you're doing is worth nothing, right? So I don't want to go too much into this, but this is really, the woman has an extra bina. In the tree of life, in the sferot, in the 10 sferot, in the 10 sferot, there's Chokhmah Bina Da'at, which is, by the way, the acronyms of Chabad, Chokhmah Bina Da'at. The woman has an extra bina, has an extra understanding, extra bringing, yielding, wisdom. You know? And I'm just questioning myself whether it was fear of the man, of the masculine from the feminine, to put down the woman for so many generations. You know? But that's a different discussion. That's a different topic. And so, before you go to the next slide, if you see on the right, I put Melech, Mem Lamed Chet, Echaf. And in Judaism, it is, right, we have our neshama, which is in our pineal gland, if you will. That's where our neshama is, the bone of Luz, which is said not to disintegrate also when a person dies, because that contains all the DNA information of the human body, that pineal gland. We have the ruach, which is in our heart, and we have the nefesh, which is in our kaved, in our kaved, liver, in our liver and kidneys. Right? That's where all the desires are, all our physical or our wanting desires here. What we want here, all our needs, all our wants, all our desires, all our fears, kaved. And heart and neshama. Now, in the Kriyat Shema, it says, "Lo taturu acharei levavchem ve'acharei nechem asher atem zonim bachem." Don't follow your heart everywhere. Why? Because the heart is like a tourist. Right? What does a tourist do when he comes to a new place? Goes to here, comes out from here, doesn't know where he comes, doesn't know where he comes, goes into the new town, they don't know where he'll come out at night, come out in the morning. Don't follow that, right? You put moach, mem, over the lev, and moach and lev over the klayot, over the kaved, over the desires and everything. And then you get melech, king, right? So if you put the next slide, please. This slide is showing the levels of frequencies that are representing of each emotion or each state. Let's put it this way. The highest one is the enlightenment, is the purple. That's also reflected also into colors of souls. Each person has an aura. Each person has a color. And so this is reflected. Green is a heart area. So you can see that, the green area, the trust, optimism. And as you go down, you see how the numbers go low, 20. This is shame. Eventually, everything boils down to shame, which is the lowest frequency. And when we are in that place, and where is shame coming from? Shame is coming from being judged, being afraid being judged. What does that person say about me? What does my mom say about me? What does my spouse say about? Oh, why did you do this? This is not good. You should have done this. Oh, I didn't do it good again. Damn. All these kind of things. And the more we are upgrading, now there are different tools to upgrade, and this will not be today, but we can talk about this. You can reach out, and I'll be happy to talk with you about this. There are different levels. So if I'm in the willingness, I want, right? We talked about choice. I want. I'm already growing. I'm already having a positive effect on my entire surrounding. So this is just an example of, if you can continue, another slide. That's too complicated. Next one. Okay, so this is an example, a very, very, very small example of how to of what frequencies I would apply to achieve what. So if I want to, if I have a lower back pain, I will put a 0.5 hertz. Now, yes, well, how can I hear to 0.5 hertz? As humans, we can hear only from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz, 20 kilohertz. We cannot hear below that or above that. Dogs can, but we cannot. So this is what I call binaural beats. This is another thing where, for example, if I want to achieve a lower frequency, so it's anywhere from, let's say, even from 0.5 to 4 hertz, I have stress. We all go through this period of time. I want to get 4 hertz. I want to hear 4 hertz. I cannot. So I will take a ball or an instrument or a frequency generator. I will create, for example, 205 hertz on one ear. On the other ear, I'll put 201. The fascinating thing is that our brain automatically creates the interval in our head without the requirement of listening to the 4 hertz. I don't have tools to listen to 4 hertz. So I'll put 205 here, 201. My brain will automatically draw the interval of 4 hertz. So this is how we use binaural beats, and binaural beats are a wonderful tool to achieve greater healing, greater work. So this is an example. So for example, I would use a couple of balls. I would use a heart ball, and for example, I will use the solar plexus ball, and that will give me a difference of 8 hertz. 8 hertz gives different benefits aside from the work that I do with each ball. So each ball has its own proper quality, and then the interval in between them is creating the extra healing. The next slide, please. That's what I said earlier, Leonard Cohen. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. So our gates, our choices, how do we choose? What do we choose? Who do we choose? And when I choose somebody, what place did I inhabit within myself? There are many relationships that are working, are not working. We're going to ask why. You can let's go to the beginning, see where did it start from? How did it start? What place each one of us was when we chose to be in a certain place. There is, now we're talking about music. If we can go to the next slide, please. Rabbi Mendel Schneerson, the rabbi of Chabad, he said, think good, it'll be good. Sounds very catchy phrase, but it is true, actually. It is catchy, by the way. But think good, it will be good. Right? You're welcome. Think good, it'll be good. So my thoughts, that's what starts everything. That's what starts my speech. My thoughts, my intention, my speaking creates this energy. If I think good, I'm creating this wave. It's like I'm throwing a pebble in the water, a rock, and it creates this vibrations on the water, this movement. Whatever I'm throwing will come back. So this this is what I do, for example, with mantras. Now, mantras are really phrases that I use, the words, to repeatedly say a word. This is all that is needed, hakol letovah. Everything is for the good. So we're just repeating, and I think they hear. I think it's. Thank you. I think it's hearable. So hakol letovah. So I will sing that, and join me. You know hakol letovah, right? You know hakol letovah.
No, can you explain?
Hakol letovah. So it's all for the good. Hakol, everything, letovah, for the good, right? So when we sing hakol letovah, we are starting to create a movement within us, right? It's like when you go to a deli and you want to grab the soup, to get some soup. The soup has been sitting there for a while, so there is a little layer. So we're starting to, this is the first movement. We're creating movement that maybe we're not familiar with. So the first thing is to stir, is to start to stir. And then we are adding more things. הכל לטובה, הכל לטובה, הכל לטובה, הכל לטובה, לטובה, הכל לטובה, הכל לטובה, הכל לטובה, הכל לטובה, לטובה, הכל לטובה, הכל לטובה, הכל לטובה, הכל לטובה, לטובה, הכל לטובה, זה הכל לטובה, לטובה, הכל לטובה, הכל לטובה, לטובה, הכל לטובה, הכל לסתם לטובה, הכל לטובה, הכל לטובה, הכל לטובה, לטובה, הכל לטובה. Everything is for the good. And I want to thank you. I want to thank a rabbi and thank you. And if you have any questions, don't ask. No, just kidding.
I wonder what do you do with people that are deaf and cannot speak?
Deaf that cannot speak or deaf that cannot...
I mean, you have some deaf and
That, yeah. What do you do in what sense? What do you like working with them? So here's an example. I do remote work. But remote work has its drawbacks because it's remote. You know, I do a special setup of mics and then you do headphones and we connect. But I prefer our connection because really, in our DNA, what do we want? We want to be connected. We want to belong. That's why also we come here. We could read and pray at home, but we come here because the chevruta, the camaraderie, the coming together, the finding a different person. How you doing? Coming together. It's the energy. It's this what we're creating here. Was in different groups. This is why. So when I work one-on-one on person, there are two different kind of balls. There are glass balls, crystal balls, and metal balls. I like to work with the balls more because with this you don't just hear, but you feel. I work with the vibrations on the body, directly on the body. So and I have a special sound bed that is also helping people in the sound journey. So when somebody lays down and I work with different balls, and these are only some of the balls. There are many, many more balls. I didn't bring them because it's like 100 pounds. But when you have these balls on your body, you feel the frequency of the sound. So that is where the difference is, and that is how healing applies, for example, in a situation like you're saying, somebody who cannot hear through the auditory system. So this is why I like primarily to work with these balls. And let's see, yeah. So yeah. So any other questions?
The frequency, somehow you're trying to grade human emotions, and you assign a frequency as a number to be able to grade it. How did you come to that relationship?
Well, I did not invent this. This is an ancient wisdom. frequencies. I mean, sound has been here. We're created. Everything is sound. Every part of our body has a frequency. Our heart, our eyes, our ears, our skin, our hair has a frequency. How we move, not just our voice. So this is not something that I came up with, not at all. So there are tables, just like examples that I showed here earlier. There are tables that shows what the frequency, but it goes deeper than that to discover what frequencies work with what. So somebody can come and say, "Oh, I can't hear this. It causes me certain pain." That means that there is a blockage. That means that there is something going on. Now, people that come to me and ask them, one of the first things that I ask is, "Do you have any metals in your body?" Because that could affect where I put the sound ball, or how, if I do work at all. Or I don't work with pregnant women, especially in the beginning, because frequency and sound applied can possibly affect the baby. Yeah. So there are different ways. Now, when I was talking about bioacoustics, about analyzing your voice, I don't find the frequencies that affect you. It's what your voice is telling me. So when I do an analysis, your voice tells me what's going on. With bioacoustics, I can also tell if somebody is telling the truth, if you're being honest with yourself, if you believe what you say, if you're nervous, how you're nervous, what is affecting. There's so many ways that there's so much information that comes through our voice.
Well, it's interesting because in mathematics there is a section called Fourier series, and essentially is learning how to mix all the frequencies together and get new vibes, new harmonics.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's why I was interested.
It's interesting. Yeah, that's exactly. And everything is math, by the way. Yeah. But no, that's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I would like to repeat. You said that when we come together, we have energy.
Yeah.
There is so I have a request. If you can help us to sing a Shabbat song with the guitar to end.
Okay, so let's do this. Okay, let's do a Shabbat song.
So we can participate.
Yes. Let's do Shalom Aleichem. How is that? See how it works?
Anyway, she knows melody, so maybe some.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei HaMelachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei HaMelachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem leshalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mi melech, malachei hamelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem leshalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Da 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 da. Mi melech, malachei hamelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון. מי מלך מלאכי המלכים, קדוש ברוך הוא. ברכוני לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון. מי מלך מלאכי המלכים, קדוש ברוך הוא. בצאתכם לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון. מי מלך מלאכי המלכים, קדוש ברוך הוא. בצאתכם לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון. מי מלך מלאכי המלכים, קדוש ברוך הוא. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you very much.
Oh, there's a nice way to bring us to fruition and completion. Shalom Aleichem. The angels come to visit us with the blessings of peace this Shabbat, and it should be every Shabbat. And I think it's also very important that we remember here the idea of being in touch with each other, being in touch and being physically present, as much as it's wonderful that we can be online also, but bringing together, feeling the vibes. I want to thank you very much, iLan. Thank you very much. I'm so glad that we met.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Okay.